Good morning, everyone. I hope that you are having a pleasant day at whatever stage you're in of your day. Today we are back. We are going to be going over another skill. Today, radical acceptance is what we're going to be looking at, which I think of as a mindfulness skill, but it is also known as a distress tolerance skill. So that is what we're going to work on today. But before we get started, I did want to kind of do a little grounding, a very short grounding exercise. We always do these in group. You know, people are living very, very hectic lives outside of group. You're going to work, you're going back to pick up your children, you're running errands, you didn't sleep last night, all of these things kind of swirling around in the mind. So I like to do a little centering before we start in on the hard stuff. So wherever you are, if you can find kind of a quiet place, if you can't find a quiet place, at least a place you can sit down, stand or sit. For this exercise, it's best that your feet are flat on the ground. And we are going to just do a little grounding exercise. So if you can find a place to sit with your feet on the ground and close your eyes, this should only take about a minute and a half, okay? So if everyone can just take a very deep cleansing breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Kind of checking in with the body as a whole, being exactly where we are now. Thoughts may come into our mind for the next minute or so, and we're going to acknowledge that they're there and let them pass. And continue on giving all of our attention to our body. If you can, imagine a color. Maybe, what about a light blue? Okay. And we're going to imagine that color coming up from the earth through our feet where they're touching. The sensation of the cold floor against your feet if you're not wearing shoes, or the steadiness of your shoes against the ground if you are. And I want you to imagine that blue light coming in through your feet and filling you up with that color, moving in through each of your toes, through your ankles, through your shins and calves, through your knees, through your thighs, taking with it any tension you may be holding there. Imagining that light swirling through your hips and your groin area, down through your right leg, doing the same thing, encircling all the bones, all the muscles, all the way down to each of your toes. Coming back up through the belly, through the chest cavity and the lungs, filling up both of your arms from the shoulder to the bicep, to the elbow, to the wrist, through each of your fingers, a clear, bright blue. Imagining that color coming above the chest, up in through the neck and the throat, the jaw, the sinuses, behind the eyes, into your mind. And reflecting just for a minute on this body filled with this cleansing blue light, giving it permission to take any of the tensions we may be holding in this body just for a little while. Expressing gratitude for filling us up with this feeling of peace. And on the count of 3, we're going to let it escape through the top of our head, taking with it all of our worries and pains, knowing we can call upon it any time to come back through us throughout the rest of our day. So coming back into our bodies and proceeding with today's lesson in 3, 2, 1. So that's our grounding exercise for today. I highly encourage you to use it throughout your day if you ever just need a minute. That took us about 2 minutes. So I bet you have 2 minutes in your day you can use that. Okay. So today we are talking about radical acceptance. This is one of my absolute favorite lessons, skills, whatever you want to call it. It's my favorite. When I thought of the skills and the group topics that I wanted to bring to this channel, I really was thinking about the ones that I use in my life the most often. In the past 2 weeks, what have been the most useful skills to me, and historically the most enjoyable for my patients and my clients. And radical acceptance came immediately. It was the first one at the top of every time I made this list. So We're going to go over this. Like I said, it is a mindfulness skill, but it is also a distress tolerance skill. So when you are in distress, this is a great thing to practice. When you are struggling with a feeling in your body, this may be something that you need to go to. So let's define it before we move on. We all run into problems in our everyday life. That's just a part of being a human, right? We run into situations that are out of our control. For instance, now, when everything is out of our control, that is very overwhelming. That makes us feel so vulnerable. We love to control things. That's what makes us feel safe, right? So we have really big feelings. We have just situations that we didn't do anything to cause, or maybe we did, but the process of things has just played out in a really confusing and frustrating way. It's really easy to think things like, this isn't fair, or I shouldn't have this problem, right? If you find yourself saying, I shouldn't, you're probably pushing back against something. You're probably not accepting it. So use that as a good cue to yourself. Now you're going to need to practice some mindfulness to even notice in the beginning that you're having these thoughts. Most people don't. You don't notice the feelings that you have. You don't notice the thoughts that you have. So really pay attention when you're thinking about something. This isn't fair. I shouldn't have to do this. This shouldn't be happening to me. Okay. Radical acceptance refers to a healthier way of thinking of situations like those. I like to think of it as a practice of leaning in, of leaning toward, okay, instead of turning away from a feeling or from a thought about a situation. We're going to lean all the way into it and then try to manipulate that feeling or manipulate that thought into a more healthy expression, okay? So instead of focusing how we would like a situation to be, we're going to recognize and accept the problem or the situation exactly as it is. I'm going to say that again. So instead of focusing on how you would like something to be, you will recognize and accept the problem or the situation exactly as it is. Okay? So keeping in mind for the duration of this exercise, accepting a situation, practicing radical acceptance is not the same as liking a situation or of condoning a situation. You do not have to like that you are stuck in your house right now. A lot of people don't. You do not have to condone the actions of others. So let's throw out one thought that you may be having. Other people are not practicing social distancing, and that is making me very angry. Okay? That's a feeling that you're having. There's nothing wrong with that. Practicing some radical acceptance around this fact, which is absolutely a fact. You are not wrong. People are not following the rules. Accepting that as a fact does not mean that you're condoning it as a behavior. Okay, so separate those out. That's going to cause you trouble down the line. So go ahead and just tell yourself that. So let's think about some typical thoughts that we might have. This isn't fair. I have done everything right. Okay, so let's bring in a situation where your boss is laying you off for right now, temporarily. This really isn't fair. I haven't done anything wrong. That's your thought. That is a valid thought. When we practice radical acceptance around a situation, we try to change that thought into something that is a little bit healthier and that is a lot more accepting of the situation. Instead of pushing back into it, this isn't fair, it shouldn't be this way, we're going to say something like, this is really frustrating that this is happening, but I accept that this is how things need to be right now. Now, the first time you say that, if it still feels like vinegar in your stomach, if it still feels bitter in your mouth, it may be that is because you aren't believing yourself yet. And my best solution to that is to go ahead and do it again. Say it again. It's really frustrating that this is happening, but I accept that this is how things need to be for right now. And say it again and again until the pit of your stomach feels a little softer. Okay? You have to really believe what you're saying. If you are practicing radical acceptance because I'm telling you to, or because someone is making you do it, it's not ever going to work. It's not going to serve you. You have to believe yourself when you speak. Okay? So believe yourself that this is true. This is temporary. I accept this is how it needs to be right now. It's okay that it's frustrating. Okay? What about a typical thought being, I shouldn't have to be working so much right now. Why am I being punished? Because that is probably how it feels right now for a lot of people. If you are taking care of your kids and giving them schooling and supervision and taking care of yourself and trying all these workarounds for all these places that are closed, that's really overwhelming. It is totally fair that your thought would be, I shouldn't have to be working so much. Why am I being punished? So practicing some radical acceptance, I know that this isn't my fault, but I'm going to find a way to work with it instead of push against it. I can do this. I know this isn't my fault, but I'm going to find a way to work with it instead of push against it. I can do this. Okay. Let's visit again that thought that we were having before. People aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. And that's really pissing me off. Okay, valid. So let's practice a little radical acceptance. I accept that I have no control over other people. All I can do is set an example with my actions. And that one right now is probably going to feel really bitter on your tongue, so I'm going to say it one more time. I accept that I have no control over other people. All I can do is set an example with my actions. That is radical acceptance. That is the situation, how it is, and how you're responding to it in a way that serves you. Okay. I want to introduce a couple of other ways to kind of practice radical acceptance if the kind of replacing the thoughts doesn't work quite as well for you or doesn't work as well alone and you need a little extra with it. So let's call that method number 1, replace the thought. Method number 2, I typically would do as a worksheet, so I actually made some little posters to show you. They're not the most creative, but we're trying to keep this a short video. So the first one that I would look at is I would ask you to sit in a place where no one is really bothering you, a place that you can really reflect on a couple of your thoughts just for a couple minutes. And I would ask you to think about realities that I am refusing to accept. That the world is really, really overwhelming and strange and uncharted territory right now. You may be refusing to accept that. This thing that you're pushing up against. I am having to change everything right now, and I don't want to. That's a reality you could be refusing to accept. Think about it. When you think about it, what thought is stirring in your mind that is making you mad, making you sad, making you so frustrated? That is probably a reality that you are not accepting, that you are refusing to accept. So then I want you to think about behaviors that I do when I am refusing to accept reality. Those could be trying to manipulate it, pushing really hard against it, arguing with people. If you're hearing from a lot of people, God, you seem really grumpy today. Why are you so grumpy? If you are just giving up, staying in bed all day, not trying at all, that could be a behavior that you are doing because you are refusing to accept the reality of a situation. Angry tantrums. Think about a behavior there, not a thought, just a thing that you're doing. Okay. And this one I think is the most important and one of the ones that I just never really, until I learned to do this exercise, I never really thought about. How I experience suffering when I refuse to accept reality. So suffering looks different for everybody. Suffering could be I'm alone because Nobody will sit with me when I'm this angry all the time. I'm sick to my stomach. I've gotten myself so anxious or so angry or so sad that I'm physically sick. I'm despondent to the point where I'm just totally isolating myself and I don't like it. That's suffering. How I experience suffering when I refuse to accept reality, that's different for everyone. So a good check-in tip, when I say this and you say, I'm not having any, I'm good, I'm accepting all realities. My golden check-in tip is if it's still causing you pain, you probably haven't accepted it yet. Okay? So if you're saying, I'm fine, everything's fine, and then you turn on the news and there's a story about somebody doing something they shouldn't be doing, having a block party or a yard sale or something, and you immediately get so angry and you're sick to your stomach again. You probably haven't accepted yet that that's out of your control. Those people were acting a fool. That should be the end of it, right? If it's causing you pain, you haven't accepted it yet. Now, these can be for really big life issues, like my mom and I are never going to have the relationship that I want to have. She is never going to love me the way I want her to. It can be a really big reality that is causing you pain. Like that is causing you depression and anxiety all the time. But it could be something so small. Like my partner never does the dishes, and when I get home, I just want the dishes to be done. That's a reality that you may not be accepting right now that is causing you pain. So it's okay that it's not a big life-changing issue. It's any thought that you're having. So don't think that just because you don't have a major life problem right now that you can't use this skill. This could be as easy as people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. I accept that I have no control, right? It is going to be the most useful to you on those small things. Another thing to keep in mind that this practice is never going to be a one and done practice. It is just that. It is a practice. You have to do it very often. You are never going to get so proficient that you don't have to do it. I do it all the time. I've been doing it all week, and I have practiced this a lot. It would lose its value if it just automatically happened. I need to wrestle with it. I really need to check my thoughts. So keeping that in mind. Keeping in mind also, again, that radical acceptance is a healthier way of thinking about situations. It is a practice of leaning in, and it is temporary. So if someone is doing something that is bothering you, like your partner never does the dishes and it's upsetting you, you can absolutely have a conversation about that in the future. But right now, today, when they're at work and you don't have any time to fool with it, that's when we're practicing some acceptance. It doesn't have to be forever. This isn't a practice of forgetting. It's just of temporarily reframing it so that it's not causing us pain. Okay. So the last little thought reframing graphic, I guess we'll call these very low budget graphics, would be this little graphic that I show all the time. It usually has a header at the top that says your thoughts matter, but you have to write backwards when you film these videos, and I didn't do a very good job of that. So we're just going to talk about a few other reframes that are really, really easy. I would consider this to also be a practice of acceptance, even though you're not saying I accept. These kinds of reframes, I tell myself these all the time, particularly this one. What is this teaching me? I say this all the time, multiple times a day. It is a way that I accept things. So I don't have to really think of an original thought. It's just kind of a prepackaged thought that I have. If I'm pushing back against something, I hit every single red light on the way to the bank, and I'm in a hurry before they close, and I'm so teeth gnashingly angry about it. What is this teaching me? And then I feel a little better. Maybe it's teaching me I need to not procrastinate until the last minute. It's also a little bit distracting. So instead of I'm a mess, everything is a mess, try I'm human. I can't do this. I can do hard things. I'm a failure. I'm learning. I'm learning. Why is this happening to me? What is this teaching me? Okay, so those are just some kind of prepackaged radical acceptance reframing that you can do. And that's it. That's my little very, very brief lesson for the day. So I hope that's helpful to you as you go through your day. If you have any kind of problems with this, we definitely will revisit it as, like I said, it's one of my faves. So briefly, we'll just do a very, very short loving kindness meditation before we go back to our day and follow through, knowing also that we can call upon that grounding exercise that we started this little video with at any time during our day. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be filled with loving kindness. And may you have a productive and mindful day. So I will see everyone very soon, and take care of yourselves.